Almost 50 inmates die a year in federal prisons from preventable causes like homicide or self-homicide. But the worst part of it is that according to a recent report by the Office of the Inspector General, a good number of these deaths could have been prevented. In fact, some of the negligence surrounding these deaths were so intense that it almost seems like someone with no prior experience working in prisons could have handled the situations better than the trained professionals. But don't panic, because the Federal Bureau of Prisons read the report and says it will do better. And of the 344 inmates that died of possible preventable causes in federal prisons from 2014 to 2021, in nearly half of the cases, the circumstances around the deaths were horribly mismanaged. Anything from walking and not running to the scene of medical emergencies. I guess the staff don't understand how medical emergencies work, to issues giving the proper drugs when someone is ODing, to failure to bring or use medical equipment. I like how use is on here. I came as fast as I could and I had the defibrillator. Fantastic. Put it over there. Don't you want to use it? No. Okay. Tragically, over half of the inmates' deaths were caused by self-homicide. I have to say self-homicide because if I use other words, YouTube might demonetize me and I don't really want to deal with that, so we're going with self-homicide. Trust me, it's the best one. I had some other options and that one just makes the most sense for the circumstances. I know it sounds a little weird, I'm sorry. The evaluation we've been talking about said that in 40% of the self-homicide cases, something was mismanaged. For instance, in a third of the cases, the prison hadn't counted or checked on the inmates nearly enough. For instance, when a person is in solitary confinement, which is where a lot of these people were, you're supposed to check on them every half hour. But in one case, the report found that no rounds had been conducted for almost 3 hours when the death occurred. How is it that my preschool had this down and not a federal prison? Come on, people. Also, it seems like the mental health exams they were giving people were horribly broken. So in the prisons, mental health assessments were given regularly, and then the prison was given a score depending on how mentally sound they were. So 1 was the best score and 4 was the worst score. 80% of the inmates who ended their own lives had a score of 1. One of the prisoners was basically only given 1 mental health exam in 7 years. The results from that first exam were pretty much copied and pasted on all of the inmates' mental health records. That makes sense. You know, personally, I feel like my mental health has stayed the exact same over the past 7 years. Well, that's why I'm still technically a 15-year-old. I don't want to come off as too harsh to the people working in the prisons, by the way. I'm sure there's lots of people that are doing a great job, just not everyone. For instance, whoever was in charge of meeting the BOP requirement that prisons do mock drills of self-homicides to prepare its staff for emergencies. Because for a lot of prisons, there was no evidence that that had ever happened, which caused problems. For instance, in 78 of the 344 deaths that were reviewed, the staff had problems properly using the AEDs. The problems ranged from the expected, no one knew where they were, to the stupid, they were out of batteries, to the downright absurd until it seems like they were making up problems to have with these things. For instance, when the machine told one staff member to press the shock button so that the inmate could be given the life-saving treatment, and instead of pressing the shock button, the inmate pressed the power button. Easy mistake to make, I get it. The buttons are only nowhere near each other and different colors and sizes. Actually, yeah, I could see myself doing that one. But I'm not working in a federal prison, okay? I keep thinking about how when you go to close a tab, a window pops up being like, are you sure you want to close these tabs? But when you hit the power button on a really important piece of medical equipment to be used in emergencies, it's like, yeah, no, they meant that. We'll turn off immediately. Finally, the staff weren't very good at communicating with one another. When the staff found an inmate having a medical emergency and they radioed the medical team so they could come and help, they would say stuff like, medical, I need you to step up. Okay, so do I bring bandages or burn cream? Step up, medical! Sounds like my stepmom's experience trying to text my dad. What on earth does going out to dinner with the narwhals at that restaurant back after I finish my trophy mean? When are you coming back? The Office of Inspector General ended the report with suggestions for how to improve things going forward, such as offering the staff better trainings. And the Federal Bureau of Prisons said that it had actually already taken some of the steps outlined in the report and that they hoped to mitigate inmate deaths in the future. I hope they do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with a slightly lighter topic. But don't panic, because the Federal Bureau, no!